Welcome back to Full Sport Press. I'm Peyton.
I am Zac.
And let's just jump right into it. We got a lot to cover today, especially college basketball. It's that time of year. So we're going to start with the what we saw. My what we saw is not necessarily something great. It's great, but in a very unhealthy sense. So about I think it was Wednesday. A report came out about Illinois' Matthew Meyer, right? He's one of their star players for the Illinois basketball team, had been missing practice the last couple of days due to caffeine poisoning. And you're already like, what in the world happened there? And he made sure he told his story. He let people know.
As he should.
After their game against Ohio State on that Sunday, he went home, he played video games, and drank 5 Monster Energy drinks in one afternoon. And I think we just have to give a shout out to him. I mean, what a performance.
Yes.
What a performance. I mean, that takes a real unit. And obviously it took him out for a little bit, but I mean, you got to respect the dedication to his craft.
Yeah. I mean, he's back. He's all good. I think that one thing we've learned now is that since players have a little bit more, I don't know, they can be themselves a little bit more since they're making money. We saw this with the Clemson thing, with the testicles exploding,
Yeah.
People are going to tell their stories, and I think they should. We want to hear them.
If you were confused by Zach's last statement, look up, was it Brevin Galloway, I believe?
I believe so.
And that'll let you a little in on that one.
Yeah. So my what we saw is actually not even, it's kind of like yours. It's not like a highlight or anything. It's something fun I saw on Reddit. Speaking of the new age of college sports and the NIL, I was scrolling on Reddit, and in the WNBA subreddit, somebody dropped a link for a NIL rankings. So basically, once you click this link, which we'll put in our description on YouTube, it's going to take you to the college women's basketball NIL. But from there, you can change it to any. You can't really see that, but you can change it to any sport that you want. So I'm going to go to football, and it literally tells me number one, Arch Manning is making the most money off of NIL. Would you like to guess how much he's making?
$5 million.
Ooh, a little bit higher than for real. 3.7 million.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't far off.
No. So yeah, that's what I saw. I thought it was pretty interesting. I took a little scroll on all the 3 major sports. So
I will say it's interesting to know that, but that could definitely come back to bite some players if they're not playing well. I can just imagine the comments they're going to get. You're getting paid $3.7 million to not be good. Yeah,
man. That's what it's about.
That's true. All right, and let's do our other recap. What happened in our games of the week? And you already know Duke survives in Chapel Hill. Let me tell you, it was an anxiety-filled game for me. Quite literally the last minute or two, I was pacing the floor. It was a great game, back and forth the entire time. No team ever really pulled away. And I tell you what, you can tell Duke's defense did its job, held North Carolina to 57 points. It really helped that Leaky Black and Caleb Love continue to just miss wide open threes. That was really helpful of them. But at the same time, Armando Bacot had a bunch of lame fouls that the refs called. But, I think Duke did a good job, a statement win. I mean, I feel like pretty much everyone was expecting North Carolina to win because they literally had to.
Yeah.
Coming into watching College Game Day and even the broadcast, it was all about North Carolina's got to win to make it to the tournament, basically. And it's at home, so they were all over North Carolina, and Duke kind of put that to rest. And I personally believe ended North Carolina's tourney chances unless they do the run in the ACC tournament. So I think a successful game of the week for me.
Yeah, that was a pretty good one. My game of the week was a little bit more boring. I picked Texas versus Kansas. I don't think anybody thought it would be boring, but Texas survives. Not even survives. They won that game pretty easily, 75-59. I don't think there was ever a point in the game where it was even really in question. Texas from the jump. I think Kansas might have had a lead at the beginning, and then Texas just took over.
Yep.
But Texas has looked good ever since Mr. Beard, who we'll talk about a little bit later, or we might not, who knows. Ever since he left, they've looked pretty good. They've dropped some weird games, but I think that's just kind of been the Big 12 this year.
Yeah.
And they're one of those teams to look out for going into this tournament in a week. Wow.
Yeah. I think Kansas also didn't really have much to play for. I mean, of course they're going to be playing hard, but
Yeah.
as far as motivations, Texas definitely had more of a motivation to win that game at home. Kansas already locked up the Big 12. So maybe they're looking ahead a little bit and kind of let their foot off the gas. That's a possibility, but still a good win regardless for Texas.
That is true. All righty. Well, let's kick it off with reviewing some things that happened around all the sports this week. Starting off with college football, I just have one thing, and it's a fun thing. Mr. Kiffin, he's been in the news for years. Crazy things. My personal favorite is Alabama leaving him after one of the bowl games.
Yeah.
That was just hilarious. But now he's back in the news for some more fun. Lane Kiffin is putting on a yoga class inside the Vaught, which if you don't know what that is Ole Miss's football stadium. So I believe it's already sold out. 250 people will be joining him for a $20 yoga experience this week, actually, March 7th from 4 to 5. He's also going to have his dog there doing yoga with them.
Now, when I said last week, who was it, BYU?
It was.
I would not have done the BYU cruise, but this one, I feel like I'm all in. I'm all in on that.
Absolutely. Yoga with Lane Kiffin? Dude, could you imagine just the tweets that could come from it?
Yeah, it's that is an insane event that I'm sure is going to be amazing.
I would love to go to that. But yeah, that's all I got for college football. Why don't we kick it off to the professionals?
All right, NFL. And I think the great thing about NFL is even when we're months away from any action, we have something to talk about weekly.
We do.
First thing, just a little note: Aaron Rodgers is out of his cave. He could emerge from the darkness, and has yet to.
Where was it?
Was it Colorado?
Oregon?
Oregon?
I thought it was Oregon.
Yeah, that sounds right. Oregon. And he's yet to say anything, but according to him, that was going to enlighten him. So we should be finding out soon. I think the consensus is he's probably going to be leaving the Packers. The question is he going somewhere or is he retiring? I guess we'll find out soon, hopefully. And then today, breaking news, Derek Carr signed by the Saints. Now, I personally think that is a good signing by the Saints. Now,
I hate it.
So. Let me just say I like it in the sense that he's a quality quarterback. He's not great, but he's a good quarterback that can win you games. But is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? Probably not. Now, I think the thing I hate about it is the contract. 4 years, $150 million, $100 million in guaranteed money.
That's insanity.
Yeah, it somehow helps their cap in a way, but at the same time, you're guaranteeing $100 million to Derek Carr. That's a lot. I think at that money, I mean, you have to assume they're thinking he's going to lead them at least to the playoffs. And if it was a year, you're going to take a chance on it. It would be this year in the NFC South because it is a weak quarterback room in every team. So maybe that's what they're thinking. Yeah. Get ahead of every other team. But so yeah, Derek Carr off to the Saints. Lamar Jackson has to be happy to see $100 million in guarantees, considering he's going to be asking for a lot more of that now.
How much is he asking, or was he asking for?
I don't know. All I know is they offered him like 140 guaranteed, and he turned it down. Which he should at this point. I mean, someone's going to pay it to him.
If Derek Carr is getting 100,
someone will give Lamar that if it's not the Ravens. So I say
Panthers.
I would hope, but the early reports do say if Lamar gets traded, it would be to the Falcons. So we're going to hope that doesn't happen. Yep. We're going to hope that one doesn't happen. That's why we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to give that any life in the world. We're just going to act like that.
Literally just cry.
All right, moving on. Jalen Carter. Man, that was a shocker. I felt like getting that notification.
It was a whirlwind.
Yeah. I don't want to comment too much on it because we don't really know the truth about what all happened. But basically,
it's just the fact that it happened when it happened.
yeah, very bad
Yeah.
timing for him.
It's very much like Laramie Tunsil,
Yes.
the year when he was about to get drafted. But tell the story.
So
Yeah.
Jalen Carter, the day I believe the combine was beginning, they were all in
It's like
Indy.
15 minutes
Yeah,
before. Yeah.
and an alert comes out. Jalen Carter arrest warrants for reckless driving, I believe, and racing. And the same night that the two Georgia, it was the one of the staff members and the student died in a car crash,
Mhm.
and he was somehow involved in it. They haven't came out with anything else, so don't want to speculate. But yeah, that it was the timing of it was not good. He went
No.
back. I believe he got arrested, but then bailed out and then went back to
Yeah.
Indianapolis. So he did end
Yeah.
up going back to the combine, but that's got to be some rough interviews after that. I can't
Oh,
imagine what the
yeah.
teams are saying.
No.
Already knowing that combine interviews are insane, I can imagine adding
Mhm.
that into it. Oof, he had to have had a rough time. um,
Yeah, for sure.
and then talking about the combine, Anthony Richardson.
Yep. Yep.
Everybody saw this coming. Like they knew he was going to make a name for himself at the combine, but I don't think we saw it coming like at the magnitude. Because my God, he showed off. It's like a thing where like surely, like I feel like teams are thinking we can make something out of this guy. Like even
Yeah.
if even if he isn't the best passer, like he's so athletic. Like we can figure out something.
It's insanity. Before the combine, I was basically in my head thinking he'll be fine if we draft him because I'm scared of what the Panthers are going to do. We really don't know right now. And I was like, he's probably a realistic option considering where our pick is and just the kind of quarterbacks that we like. I mean, he's very Cam
Yeah.
Newton-esque in general, and we had success with Cam at times. So I was a little worried. I was like, he's not who I want, but I think he'll be fine. Now I'm like, should we trade up for him?
And that's yeah.
Especially if the other two are gone and we want to get our guy, should we just trade up for him?
That's yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny you say that. A report came out today that the Panthers are aggressively trying to trade up in the draft. It didn't say for number one or where, but it seems like there will be something happening there. And
It's so nice having an aggressive front office.
it is great. The question really is
Even
going to be
though, yeah.
who in the world are they going to pick? Because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say four. I don't really know. I want CJ Stroud if I was picking. If I was in charge of the Panthers and I'm picking number one, I'm probably picking CJ Stroud. He is another guy who had a very impressive combine. His throwing part of it was what really showed off. He was calm, collected, made pretty much all the throws, incredible accuracy. So as Anthony Richardson showed off his physical traits, CJ Stroud showed off his throwing. And I don't know. Bryce Young is
Yeah.
he didn't do anything besides get measured. And
Oh yeah. He's
he'll
gonna
have
figure
this
stuff
pro
out
day.
pro day.
And
Yeah.
let me say those three are probably the top three, I would assume, on all the draft boards. I know Will Levis is there too, but he puts mayonnaise in his coffee. So
He eats bananas with the peels on.
you have to take that into
It's
account.
not normal. Like, do you think he's getting asked those questions? Or are they just like,
That's what I'm
sure.
saying. Knowing what I know about the combine and what they ask, I'm 100% certain they're probably asking those questions.
That's just insanity.
Like I feel like if I'm a GM and I'm looking at a team or looking at a guy and he's like, "Yeah, put mayonnaise in my coffee," I'm just putting an X. I'm like, "Yeah, you're not a fit here.
No,
you're not a fit. We'll move on." But yeah, all the quarterbacks. I think Bryce Young he measured a little bit better than I think people expected, which is a big deal for him because that's been the one knock on him, his size. And then Will Levis, he threw a 59 mile per hour, I believe, ball.
Jeez.
Apparently, there's a leaf blower right outside my apartment.
Thought it was Jalen Carter.
But yeah, Will Levis threw like an insane. The only two higher recorded at the combine, I believe, were Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. So he did have that for him. Yeah. Other than that, I didn't hear much about him. So those are the big names out of the combine. What everybody's really focused on right now, I feel like, is the quarterbacks. I haven't heard hardly anything about any other position. Nope. Every time I turn on the TV, it's quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I guess it's a big quarterback class. Like, not big in size, really, but there's big
Yeah.
names. Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud are huge names. Anthony Richardson has made a name for himself, and Will Levis is here. And people are still forgetting about Hendon
That's
Hooker.
true too.
Like, he's still here, and he played amazing last year. He went down with an injury that apparently he's ahead of schedule on. People are forgetting about. He might drop, and somebody's going to get steal.
I've read about him as well being a possible steal for someone. I mean, if you're sitting in the second round and you need a quarterback and you're late in the second round and you see Hendon Hooker still there, pull the
Mm-hmm.
trigger.
Why
Yeah,
not? Yeah.
I agree. All right, I believe we have a new topic to discuss, Zach.
We
I'm going to
do.
defer this
We do. We
all to
do.
you.
That's fun. So, growing up in the South, yeehaw, NASCAR is a big thing down there. And let me tell you what, I grew up despising it. I said, I will never watch this redneck sport. And I will continue to call it a redneck sport because that's exactly what it is. You can come at me. I don't care. I've been to a NASCAR race. I know what it looks like. But I did decide to look at the better version of it. F1 had their first race this weekend. And I'm not going to go too much in detail because this is my first time ever trying it. I don't know a whole lot about it. But what I can say is, damn. And what's crazy about this, the entire time, there was one person in first. He was 24 seconds ahead of everybody else. And everything else was just that much entertaining. It's like they didn't even need to talk about him. They're like, he's up there. He's fine. Let's look at everybody else. Because some of these things they can do, the overtakes these people make. Speaking of one guy, Fernando Alonso, who is 41 years old, by the way, still racing, had 2 overtakes that were just beautiful. He had one over my guy, Louis Hamilton, but it was a really good one. He got faked out at first and missed his opportunity, but then came back and just it lined up perfectly. And then he had another overtake over Carlos Sainz near the end to get into third place and get that podium position. And wow, it was fun to watch. If you don't know how F1 works, I don't really either. I'm learning. I will teach you along the way. But right now, the leaderboards, we got Max Verstappen, however you say that. He is in the lead with 25 points. He came in first for that race. Sergio Perez, also a part of Red Bull with Max, has 18 points. And then Fernando Alonso has 15. The points breakdowns are like, if you come in first, you get 25 points. If you come in second, you get 18. And it just goes down basically by threes until 10th place. And then if you come below 10th, 0.
See, me personally, I've never been any kind of racing guy. So, never been NASCAR or
You got to
F1.
try it.
I've tried to watch
try
F1.
it.
I just couldn't get into it.
I loved it.
I feel like there's always something better for me to watch, like other sports I would rather be watching, I guess is the best way to word it. All right, moving on to the NBA, just a short little talk about how Ja Morant is just I don't even know what
I'm
to
not sure
think
what's
of him
happening.
anymore. If you had not heard,
I'm not
Ja
sure what's
Morant, the
going on.
Grizzlies point guard, star point guard, he decided it would be a good idea after one of their games. I think it was in I can't remember the city, but it was after one of their games in an away city. He went live on Instagram and decided to. I believe he was in was it a strip club? I think it was a strip club, and
I have
decided
no
to
clue.
flash a pistol. And he's recently been just there's. He also got accused of beating up a 17-year-old
And pointing a
and
gun at
pointing at
him
him.
and pointing a laser at the Pacers while they were trying to get on the bus. It's very much not a good look in the exact same way that on the college side, Brandon Miller taking the gun and then the very next game having the pat
Yeah,
down
yeah.
introduction. It's very much just not a good look. And I do not know Ja. I don't know anything about who he is like as a person, but it's not a good look. And it really does suck because before all this happened and I moved here, I was like, oh my God, I got Ja Morant to be proud of like coming from South Carolina and just having a few things. We have women's basketball. We had Ja Morant, Zion Williamson. But other than that, it's like there's not too much sports wise to talk about with South Carolina. And then now all this, I'm just like, yeah, I'm done with this guy. until something
I
changes.
yeah.
Because this is
I mean, my
awful.
my only opinion on it is you're an NBA, not only an NBA player, you're an NBA superstar. Like, dude, just give it up. I mean, you're
Mm-hmm.
making millions, and like, come on.
Yeah.
At some point, it's just like you got to get rid of all that and just move on. Like,
Yeah.
you're risking losing that over showing a gun off on Instagram Live or a pickup basketball game with a 17-year-old. That's
Absolutely.
just insane to me.
That's crazy to me. But yeah, I don't know. He got suspended for 2 days. Hopefully this time will help him
Yeah,
see
we'll
what's
see
going
about
on,
that.
and he'll
All
yeah.
right, moving on to
Ooh.
women's college basketball. Zach, I'll let you take the floor.
First off, let me say, let's go Gamecocks, baby. SEC champions, very much going to be the overall number one seed in the tournament. And I would say the only team that is looking scary to me right now is Iowa. Because, wow. I don't even know what to say about last night. I wish that I could have Megan on here and she could just tell you the state of shock I was in at watching Caitlin Clark play basketball. It was like she was basketball Jesus. She could do no wrong. Every pass was literally perfect. There was one pass near the end of the game, I remember. She's inbounding the ball and she just chucks it. And it gets right to Monica. I can't pronounce her last name, but it gets right to Monica and she makes another pass. Boom, layup. I mean, it was insane. Iowa ended up taking the Big Ten tournament. They beat Ohio State last night 105-72. Ohio State was shooting about 35% from the field. Iowa shot 62% from the field, 50% from three. It was just a clinic of textbook basketball. We'll see if it can continue in the tournament. They've had some other games where they've looked pretty questionable and a little scary. But yeah, if you're looking at this tournament right now on the women's side, Iowa's a fun team to watch. They're going to be fun, especially once we get into the Elite Eight. So yeah, that's all I really got to say.
All right, let's move on to college basketball and men's college basketball to be exact. And man, we are just in a great time right now. I spent pretty much the entire weekend watching some outstanding games. We're just going to start off with the AP poll. I think that's a good way to start off, kind of see what kind of movement happens. As we talked about it last week, we have a new number 2 team in the nation. So we have Houston, obviously at number 1, even though the scare at Memphis. And then the new number 2 team in the nation, the UCLA Bruins, jump Kansas. Yes, they move up
Ooh,
to 2. So that was interesting.
they're still not a
They
one
did
seed,
get the win
probably.
over Arizona this weekend, so that was a big win for them. And that Kansas took the loss to Texas, but they stay at 3. So Kansas at 3, Alabama down to 4. All right, and then pretty much the same.
Good.
5 and 6 Purdue, Marquette. 7 Texas has moved up a little bit. 8 Arizona stays there. 9 Gonzaga in the top 10 or 9. I guess they were number 10 last week. So number 9 and then Baylor down to 10. Other things of note: Xavier up to number 15. Tennessee down to number 17. So they are fall. In my opinion, that's still too high.
I don't
I
understand how they're
I when I
ranked.
watched them,
They've
yeah,
been
recently
so
they
bad.
are not good.
So
They're just
bad.
not. Like, I don't know what happened to the team at the beginning of SEC conference play, but especially now that Ziegler's down, they're done in my opinion. I would be shocked if they made it far at all.
Yeah, I think I wrote down here lower in the notes Tennessee bad at closing
Yeah,
out seasons
just
because I mean clearly this basketball season hasn't been good. We saw what happened when they came to Columbia in the football season. That 63-point destruction. So I'm sorry, I had to shout it out anytime
another
I can.
big mover, number 18 Texas A&M. I think that's well deserved.
Hey, they should be
19
higher in my
moving
opinion.
down 4 spots, Indiana. And then 21 back in the top 25, the Duke Blue Devils. About time, in my opinion. They've been kind of slept on recently. And then Kentucky back in the top 25 as well at 23. Other than that, nothing really of note. Oral Roberts, number 26, other receiving votes. So that's a team you can look out for in March for upsets. All right, so not too many big things, just a couple teams back in there, a couple teams moving up. Now, our next note may have changed. We were going to discuss Kansas deserving of the
Yeah.
number 1 overall seed, but I mean, the loss to
But-
Texas really, it's not huge, but it does kind of hurt them. At this point, I don't believe they're the best team in the nation, but it's hard not to give it to Houston, in my opinion.
I don't know who the best. I don't know who should get it.
I mean, the thing
I
is,
really
Houston
don't.
has 2 losses on the year. They're 29-2. I mean, do they play in a horrible conference? Yes. But at this point, I mean,
Yes.
you can't. I don't know. You already have them at number 1 in the rankings. I say just give them the number 1 overall seed, unless they lose in their conference tournament. Then yes, they shouldn't get it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if we're taking notes from like other sports in past years in like college football, Clemson has very much been in the worst conference of all time for football, and they've been the number 1 team and number 1 seed in the playoffs. So, you know, it's just kind of how the NCAA committees work.
And I will say,
especially in this year, there's a lot of parity.
I will say, I do feel like the number 1 seeds are locked unless something crazy happens in the tournaments, like Alabama loses his first round. That's the only team I'm not locked on as a number 1 seed. Houston, UCLA, Kansas, I feel like those 3 are locked as 1 seeds. Alabama's the one I feel like could move down to a 2 because they've been not good recently. And with everything going on, a lot of distractions, that's the only team I could see slipping out of a 1 seed. But
do you think Purdue would take their place?
If they win the Big Ten, yes. If that's what I would say. Other than that, it's hard to make a case for anyone else. Maybe Marquette. That's rough too, though. I don't know if I'm ready to put them as a 1 seed. There's just not a team that's worthy of a 1 seed really in that 4 spot, unless Alabama wins out. Then I feel like they've earned it.
Yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and go down the Sister Jean?
Yeah, I'll do this real quick. So if you didn't keep up with anything for college basketball this week, the most important news out of all of this is what I'm about to tell you. Sister Jean, if you don't know who she is, I guess you've been living under a rock since 2018, but that's okay. I did do a full history lesson dive into Sister Jean that I was going to share today, but we decided to pivot and do something else in a minute. So I'm going to table that and give that to you a little bit later. But I will let you know who she picked as her champion.
Yes.
Peyton, you already know.
Let's just say Sister Jean has lost it.
She's on something good, man. She's smoking something good. Sister Jean decided to pick Kentucky as her national champion.
I just take this as Sister Jean hasn't watched basketball this year, and she's just like, Kentucky's always good.
Yeah.
So that's what I feel like might have happened here. That maybe Sister Jean, Loyola Chicago wasn't good this year. She was like, I'm tuning out. And then someone asked her, they're like, oh yeah, who's your pick? And she's like, Kentucky. That's the only thing I can come up with there.
I don't know. My research begs to differ. I can't say why, but it does. But I don't know. That's a crazy ass pick.
Sister Jean, if you get that right, I apologize.
Yeah,
because,
same.
Wow.
Same.
All right. Now, let's just go ahead and go over a few teams that have already sealed their bid to the tournament, won their conference tournament. That is, we'll start off. I want to end with the first one, but we're going to start off with Southeastern Missouri. And what's the O? SEMO. What is the O? Okay.
That's Missouri.
I see. So Southeastern Missouri won a insane game against Tennessee Tech, where Tennessee Tech literally hit a buzzer beater that they thought was a 3 at first to win the game. They overturned it, made it a 2, and SEMO won in overtime. So yeah, it was a very crazy ending. Then we have Drake absolutely destroying Bradley and Arch Madness. I don't know if you heard about Arch Madness. That was the name of the tournament.
I did print I did print some Bradley hoodies
Those are some
today,
sad fans.
but
But
yeah.
a fun fact, in case anybody missed that, the OVC, I believe was no, what was that conference? MVC. There's so many conferences, I forget the name.
Isn't that like
Missouri
Mountain
Valley.
Valley?
Is that one?
Oh yeah.
There's so many.
I mean
Okay, and I think
that
that's
is
the one
one.
they're
That
in.
is one.
They
Yeah.
called themselves Arch Madness. That was the name of the tournament because it was held in St. Louis. And let's look at this final score. Yeah, the
That makes
MVC
sense.
was that tournament. Drake 77, Bradley
Yeah.
51 in the tournament final. Drake is if you're looking for a possible upset or a Cinderella team, Drake is on the lookout. They have looked really good this year, in case you're looking for one. And then we have the Hootie Hoo Owls, Kennesaw State. Give them a round of applause. Their first
Yeah, beating them Flames.
ever tournament appearance in history. And I believe it was 2019-2020 season. They had 4 wins. And this coach came in and turned it around, took them to a tournament, and knocks out a team that could have been dangerous, Liberty, because they have a point guard, Darius McGee, who has been like insane, like shoots from the logo. But he sadly went 0 from 11 for 3 in the championship game. Some things you just hate to see. And then
Now, I've heard Liberty's name a lot. Is there no chance they can
that
get
I'm not 100% sure. It is possible because they have had a good season and they have some players that like are really good. I don't know what the odds are.
I would love.
It's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would love to not.
And
see
then
Liberty,
on my final team, I would say these for last because I believe this is my personal Cinderella team. If I was going to pick one, it is UNC Asheville. Now they're going to be a 14, 13 seed, maybe. So they're going to be a big Cinderella, but maybe can steal a few games because they have 2 guys, Drew Pember and I believe it's Tywan Jones. They are insane. Drew Pember's like a postman, and he was like dominating. And then the Jones, like I don't know if there's a better shooter in college basketball. He went on a run to come back because they were losing to Campbell in the final, and he hit like 3 or 4 threes in the last couple minutes to put him over the edge. But that's a team I would be on the lookout on your brackets because man, those two are going to be hard to game plan for. All right, our last segment of today. This is going to be a fun one, a super hard one, honestly.
I'm
We are
excited.
going to pick all of the Power 6 conference tournaments. Who do we think is going to win? Maybe someone that might get surprisingly eliminated early. And we are going to start off with the ACC. Now, and the ACC, they don't – yes?
Are we going to go straight down this list or
straight down the list?
Do it. Okay.
So, in the ACC, you know, there's not a clear favorite at all. Actually, there's not a clear favorite at all, and there's not a team that's like overpowering good. There's probably about 7 or 8 teams I could see, not 8, 7 teams I think that could make a run somehow and win this. Now, in my opinion, I hate to be the homer here, but this is how I genuinely feel. I think if I was going to pick a team to win it right now, it's Duke. The only other team I think is possible is Miami. Duke or Miami, I feel like are the top 2 in the conference right now, but I think Duke is on a run that if they can continue it, they'll win the ACC.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to agree. He knows I'm right.
I really hate to agree with you.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, there's just nobody. I'm, of course, not going to pick Clemson. I don't care if they were undefeated. I'm not going to pick them. Virginia has just not looked good. Yeah, I think either Miami or maybe Pitt if they get on some streak.
I can see that.
But Duke is just playing hot basketball right now, and it's scary. But we'll have to see if Filipowski has another 0 night.
We neither of us mentioned it, but Louisville, do they have a chance?
Okay, if that happens, I mean, I'm rooting for it, obviously. But if it happens, can we just? I thought about this, and we'll talk about this conference a little bit later, like the SEC. But I thought about our team doing that. But could you imagine?
That's what
Louisville made it to the tournament What are they?
Yeah,
3
3 or 4
wins?
wins. Yeah, it's
4
bad.
wins?
One of the other podcasts I
Yikes.
listened to, actually, Field of 68, they were talking about what seed would Louisville be if they won the ACC, and they had to be in the tournament. And I was like, I think 16. I mean, they wouldn't even have.
They
I don't even know
have
if they'd
to,
have
right?
10
Yeah.
wins even after that. That is one thing. Like,
Eek.
there's a 0%
They
possibility, but
would
if it ever happened, it would be the craziest thing of all time.
they would easily be like the lowest, like the
Yeah.
worst team ever,
Oh,
right? In the
100%. Unless
tournament.
there's been some low conference team.
Okay.
Actually, there could be a worse one that could be making it, which is
Yeah, I know.
tomorrow night
Tonight,
in the Patriot League final. In case you want to watch a interesting game, the Patriot League final,
sicko
Lafayette
game.
plays Colgate. Now you're saying, what's the big deal? Lafayette is 11-22, and they've made it to the finals. So they would, if they win the game of tomorrow night, they make the tournament. Now the odds of them beating
That's amazing.
Colgate is a good team. The odds of them beating them, not high, but if it does happen, 11
That
and
would be
22.
amazing.
Oh man, I watched them beat American in the semis, and it was rough to watch, but they did it. But anyway, so I think that about
Alrighty.
wraps up the ACC. I
Yep.
think Duke or Miami are the two options, in my opinion, to win it. But Duke's got the hot hand. All
Yeah.
right, moving on to the next one. You
All
want to
right.
talk about the ACC is hard to pick, the Big 12, and I genuinely say I
I
think
have my
any of
pick.
the 10 teams can win
I
this,
have my pick.
and I mean that genuinely because
They can.
Oklahoma
They can.
has beaten
Yes.
exactly.
They
So
beat
I'm not ready to say anyone's not going to win this, except maybe Texas Tech, going with what they have going on over there, because their coach
Yeah,
is
weird stuff.
their new coach got suspended. So yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna. You got yours?
I
Go ahead. I'll
I
let you
got
pick
mine.
this one
I'm
first.
locking it in. I ever since that fateful night in January,
I know who you're picking.
I have been on the Tang Gang train. And you know what? Today it solidified it because home field, we announced that
I
beautiful,
did.
beautiful. Did you see it? Oh, the beautiful lavender K-State EMA bomber jacket. One that if I had the money for, I would buy immediately. But man, all that stemmed from a video of Tang Gang saying, home field, you need to get us on some lavender. Here we are. I am picking Kansas State to take this as a 3 seed. They're going to win the Big 12 championship. I love Noel. I love Johnson. I'm ready to see them in action.
You know,
They're going to do it.
I could
Tang Gang
definitely
for
see that
life.
happening. And I feel like the easy pick for me to say here is Kansas, but I won't say Kansas. But I'm going to go with who Kansas State plays in the first round, the TCU Horned Frogs. This is a
Ooh.
team that, like, people have
Alrighty.
said is the best team in possibly the whole country when they're healthy and playing good, that they're unbeatable. And they've showed signs of
I've
that
heard
early
that.
on in the
Yeah.
season when they would play a couple of these Big 12 opponents where you're like, good Lord, they just destroyed them. And then they had a few injuries. They had a few games that was just like they
Mm-hmm.
weren't showing up. Now, this is the time, if you're going to show up, TCU, this is the time to start. And I'm going to say
Yeah.
they show up, they make a run all the way in championship. I mean, they're a solid team for sure. Do they have what it takes to go all the way in this conference? Possibly, and that's why I'm picking them.
I don't care if it's an unpopular opinion. TCU, as far as I've seen, has the best court in college basketball. It's not a question. It's
It's just
so cool.
sometimes it's hard to watch. They have like a grayish like court.
No,
It's interesting
I
for
love it.
sure. But yeah,
It's
this
beautiful.
conference, like we said, it could be anyone. But Zach's going Kansas State. I'm going TCU. One of us will be heartbroken on March 9th because they play each other in the first
Yeah,
round or second round technically. So
they
we'll
do.
see. All right, moving on to the mosh pit that is the Big Ten.
I
Let
mean,
me
it's
just
almost as
go
hard
ahead
as the
and
Big 12.
preface with this. Northwestern had a game on Sunday. If they won the game, they were the 2 seed in the Big Ten tournament. If they lost the game, they were the 9 seed in the Big Ten tournament. One game had that effect. We were talking I think it was a
Ay.
7-way tie and earlier in the week for second place. Obviously Purdue's there. After that, it's just a mesh of teams that are pretty good. And I'm gonna go out on a limb. I will be taking the Michigan State Spartans. I think they are starting to pull together. It's Tom Izzo. They got some shooters. I'm gonna think they're gonna heat up, and Spartans are going all the way. That's how I feel looking at all these almost.
I'm gonna say Purdue. They have been playing closer and closer as the season has ended, but they keep pulling it out one way or another. Zach Edey, he is very tall, but he still is good at basketball. It's got to be Purdue. That's the only. Yeah. If Michigan State wins, I would love it.
That would be
Iowa
insane.
wins, I would love it. It might be time for Fran McCaffrey to take another ref soul, but
you know what?
Yeah, I got to go with Purdue. Maybe like a little dark horse.
I could see it.
Maryland.
I think Fran. You know what? It's time to move on. You've gotten the ref soul. First, we're going to go for opposing coach. Just stare at the opposing coach, just like Zach is right now. Give him the Fran stare down. Then pick out their best player and just stare at them the whole time they're playing. Certainly a strategy. I feel like at this point, why not? Let's try it.
The fact that interaction lasted for as long as it did, and there were 0 words talking, and the ref walked up.
The little
to
step
him.
forward the ref makes, it makes it all.
Oh man, it's so good. And Fran at the end just like.
It's funny. I watched an interview with him about it, and he was like, he knew he couldn't say anything, or else he would be teched up, because he'd already gone off on them. So he decided to stare.
Obviously.
So I'm going with Michigan State. Zach's taking Purdue, the easy way out. Moving on to the Big East. Obviously you can kind of almost eliminate that whole first round. The only team that's dangerous to be in the lower ranks is Villanova, possibly. But after that, man, you can make a case for Marquette, Xavier, UConn, Providence, or Creighton winning it. And I'll let you pick first since I picked Big Ten first. So who do you got in the Big East, Zach?
Marquette. Shaka Smart's got this team. Shaka Smart's got this team right. I'm excited to see this tournament, and I'm ready to see them in the real tournament.
It's honestly, Marquette is a good pick. I want to take Marquette, but Sule, boom. I think he is going to go off for Xavier, and he's going to lead him to the championship. Now, Creighton is tempting as well, but I'm tired of being disappointed by Creighton. I've gone to bat for them too many times, and they're not going to let me down again. So I'm going to take Xavier here. I feel like the popular pick is UConn. They've been going off recently, but I'm just not ready to commit fully. They had a good season where they started off hot. Everybody's like, UConn's back. Then in the middle, they were like, yeah, exactly.
They were number one
in the middle of the
for a
season,
while.
they were like, They had some games you were like, what's going on here? But then, near the end of the season, they're heating back up again. So maybe. Now, the Providence, that's a team I'm scared of coming to brackets, and not a good way. I don't know what's going on there, but against Xavier, they were down pretty much double digits the entire game. And then Seton Hall destroyed them at home. Both of these games were at home where they got destroyed. And the theory is they did take away the tall boys from the students, and they have to put them in cups now. And that happened right before the game against Xavier at home. And they had been undefeated at home until that game. So the tall boy theory is out there. Providence does have that hanging over their head. Now, you got to wonder, at the Big East tournament, will there be tall boys? Will there be actual cups? That could play a big part in if Providence makes it to the final.
I mean, here's the thing. I feel like cups are better.
Yes, but obviously Providence basketball doesn't believe that. They see those cups in the stands and something throws them off. So, got to keep that in mind when you're picking these. Maybe that's
Maybe
it.
they just love recycling.
All right, the next one I feel like it's
Rhode
pretty
Island.
easy. There's two options. It's the Pac-12. I would be quite literally shocked if anyone but UCLA or Arizona comes out of this.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one really that good
You pick
besides
first.
those two. I'm taking UCLA. They're on a hot streak. They've just beat Arizona. Well, there you
I'm taking Arizona because they're the second best, and
That's
I
the
don't want
only.
to say
This
the
is the
same
only
one as
conference
you.
I'm probably going to be taking the number one seed. UCLA has looked insane recently.
yeah.
Arizona has not looked insane recently. They've kind of been struggling.
They
do.
haven't, but they still have really good players. Tubelis is a good player. He could go off at any moment.
This is another conference that suffers from playing at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock at night. So just
stop.
play earlier
change
so
to
everyone
East Coast
can
time.
watch you.
It's not hard.
Like
Dude, what? I know that we had this conversation like either last week or a couple weeks ago. What are they going to do when the UCLA is traveling over here to Indiana? Like, and Indiana's got to travel.
I think also with the West Coast Conference, I've wanted to watch a few of those games, but it's like every night the Gonzaga game, for example, doesn't start until like 11:30 tonight, and I'm like, what do you want me to do? I want to watch them play San Francisco, but I'm not going to stay up that late. It's just not going to happen.
Speaking of the West Coast Conference, I took it out of our notes, but their tournament format is crazy. This is, I'm not saying it's,
I believe they call it
right,
the gauntlet,
but it is crazy.
And just a little quick overview, just so you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So basically, it's two sides to it, and it's just straight across. So the two bottom teams, or I guess the bottom four teams, play each other here. Winner moves on to the next teams here, to the next teams here, to the next teams here, until the final. Yeah, it's not working. Oh, there we go. Okay. So they move on all the way. So the first and second seed, St. Mary's and Gonzaga, are already in the semifinal. And you have to basically, if you're a lower seed, you got to play a gauntlet. Just win night after night after night after night until, yeah. So it definitely is an interesting format. It favors the higher seeds, obviously, which is fair in a way, but it's also less fun. Fun. I mean.
Yeah, it is. Also, me just doing that, we should definitely figure out a way to just.
We should. If you have any editing expertise and would like to share a easier way to edit the pictures on here, you know our
Please
email.
God.
We'll put
Please
it in the
God.
description. Maybe I'm the one editing. So
full sport. I'll go back and change it probably. fullsportpressin@gmail.com. I will not spell it out after the first episode.
Our final Power 6 conference tournament. I don't need SEC tournament. I don't know what it is about SEC basketball, but sometimes it is just horrid games. Like, man, that South Carolina Ole Miss game and the LSU Georgia game, like, they're going to be horrible games. And, like, unwatchable almost. Not unwatchable. I mean, I'll probably tune in. But they're just going to be horrid games. And then, I mean, in this conference, there's a few teams you could pick to win here. I've heard Vanderbilt as a sleeper team. I'm not going to choose them, but I've heard them as a sleeper team. I'm going to go Kentucky. Sister Jeans inspired me. Oh,
you were not supposed to.
Are you going to pick Kentucky?
First, but that's fine.
Okay, good. It doesn't matter anyway. We're good. But yeah, I'm going Kentucky. Sister Jean has influenced me that they are the team to win the SEC. Maybe that's what she was talking about. She thought they were talking about the SEC tournament, and she's like, Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, he did say national championship.
She's getting up there in age. She
is 130. It's okay. We love you, Sister Jean. You know, I'm about to be on my crazy.
Don't say what I think you're going to say. Okay. I was about to say, you're just.
I'm not. I wouldn't do that. I did want to. Because if South Carolina did it, then wow. But no. I feel like the obvious pick is Alabama, but that's not who I'm going to pick. I'm in between two schools, though.
Yeah,
Those two schools are
I can see
A&M
that.
and Mizzou. A&M. It's
I mean,
buzz
they're
time
looking good.
in
That was
College
my
Station.
second pick. I
They are. If the if they didn't drop that game to Mississippi State, the game against Alabama,
yeah.
who they beat, by the way, right? They would be the
Yeah,
number one seed in the
Alabama.
ACC tournament.
I don't know if it's everything that's going on or what it is, but man, they're in a rough place right now. Somewhere you don't want to be right before March. Um, so they got to pull it
Nope.
together quick, or else it's going to be trouble. All right, and I think we can move on to which of these
Yeah.
are we most well. Wait, before we get to that, actually, let's just go a few maybe mid-major top finals that are coming up that we think it could be big. For example, the CAA. That one, if it ends up being Charleston versus Hofstra, that is going to be must see because those two teams have battled it out this year in the CAA,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
my
So,
Cinderella
I
team.
will be pulling for
Hopefully.
Charleston if they make it.
Hopefully.
But it'll be a battle. Hofstra has been on an insane run right now, so maybe somehow Charleston can pull it off against them because I know last time Hofstra beat them. So, but that will all come down if they make it to the championship because those
Yeah.
semifinals are tonight. Other than that, a rematch tonight, SoCon championship, Chattanooga Furman. Last year, Chattanooga hit a buzzer beater to send Furman home, so that'll be a good one to watch. And then, of course, if
FU,
you want
baby.
to stay up,
FU all day.
the possibility of the third round of Gonzaga St. Mary's, who wins round 3. Um, but that would probably be, yeah. Of course, you're
You're
gonna have
not
to
going to
stay
do
up
it.
till
You're not going to do it.
2 o'clock in the morning, yeah, something like that.
3 o'clock in the morning.
We're gonna assume that probably won't happen for us anyway.
It'll
Correct,
probably be a
correct.
good game that nobody will ever
But those
see.
are the main ones. I mean, other than that, there'll be some good games, I'm sure. But those are the main ones I would watch for CAA, SoCon, and possibly the West Coast if you want to torture yourself staying up that late. All right, let's move on. We have our games of the week, kind of tournaments of the week almost. I would say like which tournaments do we think are going to be
Yeah.
the most interesting? Because it's hard to pick a game of the week because we don't really know what's going to end up happening, who will make it to the finals. So, who do you have as your? No, I actually
Did I
had mine.
steal
Yeah,
yours?
yeah. So, I
Okay.
mean that you took
Okay,
the
I was
easy way
wondering.
out, but go ahead. It will.
Yeah, because it's going to have the best game. So, mine is going to be the Big 12 championship because in my mind, I see it as K-State versus Kansas on a neutral site. K-State got their win at home. Kansas got their win at home. Let's have this battle on a neutral site. Number 3, Tang game
I'd
all
argue
day.
that every round
Go.
of the Big 12 is must see because those matchups are going to be crazy.
Honestly, it is. Yeah.
Every round, Kansas State TCU in the second round. I mean, you can turn on the Big 12
Yep.
championship and you're going to be seeing a good game. So, yeah,
Yeah. Could you
that
imagine
would
there's
be
all
severely
40-point
disappointing.
blowouts?
All right, my
That'd be so sad.
tournaments of the week. I'm going with the Big East, just because I mean the kind of a lesser talked about conference. I feel like as far as if you were looking on like ESPN or something like
They
that,
are.
you wouldn't hear that much about the Big East. But I feel like like I said earlier, they have 5 or 6 solid teams that can make a run in March. And I feel like you want to watch them going in up into the tournament just to see how they perform in a tournament style format. And man, it's that talk about another one that's going to have good games beside the first round. You limit it to that first round. We could have a UConn Providence in the second round. It should be good. St. John's, as much as they haven't been great, they feel like they somehow can put up battles against some of these teams. So you could watch out for St. John's assuming they beat Butler against Marquette, possible upset. But once you get into those semifinals, Marquette versus probably UConn, Xavier versus Creighton. I mean, those are going to be some big time games that I'll definitely be looking out for. And the thing I love about the Big East teams is they have each team has 2 or 3 players that are just stars, and it's fun to watch. So yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
with the Big East.
Biggest Biggest thing I'm looking forward to this week is answers as to who I'm going to have advance in the big tournament, because as of right now, I have no
Oh
idea.
yeah, I guess another bonus must watch, not necessarily a game. Selection Sunday, got to watch the bracket come out. And let's just go ahead and say next
Yes.
week. I think we
Yep.
can almost. We're just gonna do a bracket kind of special instead of going over. We might maybe like preview or talk about a little bit about what happened, but it will be mostly us showing our bracket.
Yeah.
Hopefully by then, maybe we figured out a way to put it on the screen, so you can watch it instead of just hearing to have us say our bracket. So yeah, next week we will have a bracket special. Um, and I also had an idea. I believe we are going to be making a tournament challenge group. If anybody wants to join it, well, in the next episode, we'll put it in the
Ooh,
description. If you
nice.
want to pick against me and Zach, obviously, when it comes to March, you can know everything, and you're still going to
Yeah.
get most of the games wrong. So it'll be fun. All right, I think that about wraps it
Yep.
up. I'm ready for
It
another
will be.
great week of basketball. Just so excited. Anything left to say, Zach? Any final words?
It's going to be great. Go Cox.
Go
Let's make
Duke.
some magic happen.
How do you like them apples in North Carolina? Revenge from last year. Um, oh,
Oh, you know what? Actually, I do have something to say. South Carolina runs the state, baby.
because
Get
in
bad
case you're
word,
confused,
Clemson.
South Carolina did beat Clemson in baseball this weekend, 2-1 in the series. Um,
Just so we can tally it up, we beat them in football this year,
that's
men's
hilarious.
basketball this year, women's basketball this year. It's beautiful. And now baseball, as well as other sports.
Football
We
and
run
men's
it. We
basketball.
run it,
You should be
baby.
ashamed, Clemson. All right. We'll
We
leave it
really
there.
should
Thank
be.
you for watching. We'll see you next week for the bracket special. Goodbye.
Bye.